A very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord, and in our news, government promises the public a review of the performance of its fiscal measures next month. Barbados examining the impact of the collapse of British tour operator Thomas Cook. Experts call for changes in education to address literacy problems. And in sports, the Guyana Amazon Warriors' victory over the Barbados Tridents sends them to the 2019 CPL playoffs.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
And in our top story, Barbadians will find out exactly how government's fiscal measures have been performing next month. That's when the Ministry of Finance is expected to provide a mid-year review as stipulated in the Public Finance Management Act passed in January this year. Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley made the announcement during a town hall meeting with Barbadians living in Brooklyn, New York last evening. She says the act has resulted in greater financial accountability from ministers, public servants and state-owned enterprises.
For the first time, we are getting financial data on a daily basis as the government's cash flow. I can tell you that our reserves as of the 19th of September was $1,230 million. I can also tell you what the cash flow situation was, and that we are ahead in every day, literally so far for the month, of where we need to be in terms of our revenue. That our expenditure is slightly under, but that is for other reasons, and we're going to deal with that.
Prime Minister Motley also revealed government has dispersed some $67 million to policyholders of failed insurance company FICO since the payout started in June. In response to a concern about the country's murder rate, the Prime Minister notes that there has been a significant reduction in the level of gun violence in recent months. She believes the fall-off is as a result of intensified efforts from law enforcement personnel. She also spoke of the recent appointment of new judges.
Taken the extraordinary act of adding a number of judges, 7 new judges, which carries our complement to over another $1 million in expenditure when the year comes, on just judicial salaries and not other expenditure, such that we will have 5 criminal courts. We inherited 10,000 criminal cases in a backlog. And when I appoint additional judges, then the Judicial Services Commission has now to also appoint additional prosecutors, which is additional money, and then we have to find locations for them to hear.
Well, earlier this afternoon, Prime Minister Motley attended a high-level United Nations Climate Action Summit at the UN. She told world leaders Barbados is committed to fighting climate change, adding that the island will be launching a comprehensive climate resilience initiative focusing on everything from roofs to reefs.
Where we seek to protect our homes and the roofs which cover our people, our freshwater resources and our vital coral reefs. In short, we have now all to change how we build, and we must protect our existing reefs and rebuild the ones that we have lost.
The Prime Minister expressed her disappointment at the current official development assistance rules, which focus on the gross domestic product of countries. She says despite the wide-scale destruction caused by Hurricane Dorian, the Bahamas will not have access to grant or concessional resources as it starts the difficult task of rebuilding, and this is simply not right.
These rules were not developed for such a time as this. And we need to change these rules that deny access to successful small countries, and we need to remove the bureaucracy attached thereto.
Thank you, Excellency.
But then again, if Dominica and Barbuda remain today without any meaningful assistance after Hurricanes Irma and Maria passed 2 years ago, we must ask ourselves if small states continue to remain invisible and dispensable to the global community.
Well, Barbados has always boasted of over 95% literacy. However, in recent years, that figure seems to be slipping in the minds of some of the experts. They believe changes need to be made to our educational systems to stop that slide. And that was the topic of discussion on CBC TV 8's The People's Business. More from Shane Jones.
In a healthy debate, psychologist and co-founder of the Achieve Project, Greg Nicholson, says he has personally seen some very worrying situations.
Every day, all of us here see children. We've got 13-year-old children who come to us. They've been through the school system for 8 years or more, and they don't even know the alphabet.
Co-coordinator of Read for Life Barbados, Jamelia Walton, says the problems with literacy present themselves in the workplace.
Businesses crying out now that they're seeing resumes that don't make sense. Their interview skills, they aren't able to perform, to speak well, because they aren't able to read what they're asked to do. That we have the functional literacy, you know some, but not all of what the farmers ask you to note on it. When you go in the office and perform skills, you can't do everything that they're asking you to do, which to us would seem basic, but to them, if they don't have the basic English skills, is up to impossible to complete.
Immediate past president of the Barbados Association of Reading and principal of the Reading School, Sandy Field-Kelman, stressed that parents must be first in teaching children the basics of reading.
So when that child goes into a preschool, the child has some knowledge, or not necessarily a love, because all children love reading, but that skill should be taught at home. So when that child goes into whether primary, preschool, secondary, whatever school, that they have some knowledge of the basics in reading, so that even if the teacher is not a trained teacher, that child would be able to help that teacher along.
Member of the Barbados Association of Reading, Sharon Warner, says reading is a complex issue and Barbadians shouldn't be quick to place blame on teachers.
Really, truly, people learn to read in a lot of different ways, but there are some children who still go through the system unable to read, and unless we have the information that speaks. So why are they still not reading? What help they need? We can't speak to it as if persons are ignoring them.
Barbados has one of the highest literacy rates globally. Shane Jones, CBC News.
The Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, or the BHTA, is very concerned about the closure of British tour operator Thomas Cook and its impact on the island's winter tourism season. Well, Thomas Cook collapsed after last-minute negotiations aimed at saving the 178-year-old holiday firm failed. The UK Civil Aviation Authority said that the tour operator had ceased trading with immediate effect. It has also triggered the biggest ever peacetime repatriation aimed at bringing more than 150,000 British holidaymakers home. Chief Executive Officer of the BHTA, Senator Rudy Grant, says that they are already working with other key stakeholders to address any fallout.
We have participated in discussions led by Minister Simmons and including officials from the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. From the BHTA perspective, we are identifying specifically the number of room nights that would impact our members and to work with those affected members and the BTMI to ensure that we have the right market response. Our initial discussions are concentrated on ensuring that we are able to secure the long-stay visitor arrivals that would have utilized Thomas Cook for the winter, but also to identify the possible options available to assist in the cruise and stay home porting area as well.
Senator Grant, who is currently in Ireland, along with Tourism Minister Kerry Simmons, participating in a Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporated Taste of Barbados Roadshow, says Minister Simmons has been leading the discussion on the appropriate action to be taken under the current circumstances.
And therefore, based on the discussions that we have had, very confident that we will see a response from Barbados led by the Ministry of Tourism and conveyed by Minister Simmons that will allow us to be able to properly deal with the issue of the failure of Thomas Cook.
A call has been made for a national mentorship system to benefit young people and in particular young men in Barbados. Pastor of the Bank Hall Nazarene Church, Reverend Anderson Kelman, made the appeal during a church service to kickstart National Youth Week. He envisages the process will involve youth groups, churches, civil society groups, and other clubs, and they will take on the task of mentoring young people around them.
somehow sense that the reason why many of us have become the men that we are is because we had persons around us that when our fathers were not there, these men would have mentored us. I am the beneficiary of that because in my church at Shop Hill, there was a group of men who sought to mentor me, and every end of term they would call and say, what is his report like? I want to see his report. On a Saturday evenings, we had no money, but they would put us in their cars and they would take us to Pizza House and all kind of places, and it would help us to understand what it was to be a real man.
There are plans to stage a regional music competition for visually impaired people next year. Word of this from coordinator of the National United Society of the Blind's Calypso competition, Leroy Smith. The 9th edition of the show is scheduled for Saturday, and Mr. Smith says the show continues to grow.
Next year is going to be our 10th anniversary, and we want to go even bigger. Basically what we do is that we invite Calypsonians from other Caribbean territories. But what we want to do next year for our 10th anniversary is to have a Caribbean Calypso competition. So in addition to the Barbados leg, we will also have a Caribbean Calypso competition.
Well, that's good.
So as soon as we're finished this year, we start making all the preparations and plans and everything to have that group of persons come in for our competition.
Mr. Smith was a guest on CBC TV 8's Morning Barbados. 6 competitors will be seeking to dethrone 5-time champ Granville Mr. DJ Carter. Mr. Carter says his song this year is called The Solution, and in it he will be portraying well-known former police officer Rat Brown.
With all this killing and everything that is happening in the island, that the authorities seem not to know or don't have a solution to solve the problem. So we know that back in those years, Rat Brown was a very serious policeman, and when he passed among the youngsters, they would probably salute and they would stand at attention, and he was a no-nonsense person, and he was a person that can get things done. So I'm asking for him to come back.
As of last Thursday, Barbados has raised in excess of $466,000 in aid relief for the Bahamas. This update from the island's ambassador to CARICOM, David Comachong, during his weekly appearance on CBC TV 8's Morning Barbados. The ambassador says that some pledges still have not been paid in, so he's confident we could surpass the $500,000 mark. He has revealed that he's instructed the CARICOM Disaster Emergency Management Agency, or SEDEMA, to send off at least 90% of the money raised so far.
We're keeping the account open until Tuesday, the 3rd of December.
Right. This is open to donations.
Yes, that's a CIBC First Caribbean Bank, the SEDEMA Barbados Bahamas Relief Fund. That's going to be open, but we want to get the first tranche off to the Bahamas, that $420,000, and hopefully, I was hoping it would have been off at least by Friday. Maybe today it will go off. SEDEMA has to do all the arrangements for that, for the transfer, and once that first payment goes, then we will make additional payments as more money comes into the account.
Meantime, a new ministry has been established in the Bahamas with the purpose of coordinating the national response for recovery and reconstruction of Grand Bahama and Abaco. It's the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, formed following the destruction caused by Hurricane Dorian. More from our news.
The creation of the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction comes not only in response to the widespread destruction from Hurricane Dorian, but also as the country faces a climate in crisis.
We must make immediate and medium-term changes. But as a small island developing state with many islands and many keys, there are many long-term changes and restructuring that required a dedicated cabinet ministry.
Central Grand Bahama MP Iram Lewis will head up the new ministry and will be sworn in on Monday as Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister. Legislation for the creation of the new board is currently being drafted and is expected to be brought to Parliament once it resumes on October 2nd.
Well, schools in Trinidad and Tobago were closed today following the passage of Tropical Storm Karen. The storm caused heavy flooding and damage across the country yesterday. More in this report from TTT Online.
The storm alert might have ended, but its impact continues. On Sunday, the aggression of the heavy rains were seen at the foreshore and streets of Port of Spain. Over at Citygate, some commuters said they were waiting for over 2 hours for the level of floodwaters to subside. These two girls sought to take a chance.
We had to try somehow to get out of town so we could just to go home and just relax, because right now it's feeling cold right now. My paws is freezing.
With reports of vehicles being submerged by water, residents of Barataria still took the time to direct motorists who drove through floodwaters. In San Juan, parts of the Eastern Main Road were covered by garbage. This riverbank in the vicinity of the Speedway building was filled to capacity. One man gave his thoughts on the flooding.
Well, when you came up here to go in the street over there, the water was that's normal. And all of a sudden, you just see water that's at a raised just so.